Out. Let me black out a little bit for y'all today. Calm it down. We had a long day today, but glad to be here for the Boston the Sauce once again right here on the Who-Bangin Sports Channel. Boston the Sauce every Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Yes, we are having a late start today, but we are here. We're together, and I got my guy, the Big Ragu in the house. How you feeling today, Big Ragu?
I'm feeling great, man. It's good to be with you finally. And you know what? It's live. Technical difficulties, time schedules, whatever. This is the world we live in today. So we're here for the people. And don't you forget, we'll be here every Thursday night, like DJ says. So we're here live and in color. So it's good to see everybody, and hope you guys tune in and enjoy the show.
Absolutely. So today we plan to go visit. If you guys stay tuned to our conference previews right here on the Who-Bangin Sports Talk channel, you can see that we also do a little previews of each team, which we did quite earlier in the season or before the season even began. But now we're going to revisit some of these conferences each week, one by one, take a look about, what was predicted, where we at now with it, so forth and so on. And we're going to get into that kind of stuff. But before we get into that, Big Ragu, how you been feeling, man? How your bet's been going? We did okay last week. Just a bunch of okay weekends for me since I took a bad weekend probably about 2 or 3 weeks back. But I'm looking forward to changing things around this week. I think I got some nice spots that I'm going to attack in this one. But I'm happy to be going through this with you right now. Anything you want to tell the people, Big Ragu?
Here's the key thing right now. Early in the year, when we do the previews of the magazines, that's to kind of kick the seasons off and educate yourself, familiarize yourself with what's going on with the teams and whatnot, through all the different reviews we got. And hopefully you guys were able to tune in. If not, you could go back and watch them to kind of get up to speed. But anyways, now we're coming mid-season. So what we want to do is kind of give you guys an update on where we're at and how the teams are performing. So more or less, we try to do these breakdowns week in, week out, so we can, stay ahead of the curve, so to speak, and kind of get everybody on board with what's going on. But more than likely, some of these things, the way they've been shaping up, season-wise, has been pretty well. We started off out of conference, a lot of out of conference plays that's happened within the first 3 weeks, and now after the weeks 4, 5, and 6, you start getting into the meat and potatoes of the conference play. So these are looks we're going to be focused on. These are where the teams kind of make their home, so to speak, to try to move on to get to those bigger bowl games later in the season. So right now we're looking at week 6 coming up. How about you, Big Boss?
I'm loving a lot of overs. A lot of teams come together. They offense, like I was saying before, they get a hold of what they do well, what they don't do well, and they put it together and make a little impact. So that's changed. But the stats are coming real right now in week 6. Teams that haven't been performing well, it shows in the numbers right now a lot, especially if they're one-sided on defense or offense, stuff like that. Totals, maybe some of those sides, but I'm looking to get involved. I'm looking to get involved with you guys this week on some spots where we can find a lot of value. There's a lot of value that we can get in some spots that's on the board this week, because another one that is a good one too is that many of these freshmen, sophomores, redshirt players who's really been on some road games, moved around. Everything lines up with them right now. They may be getting ready for midterms. School grades, eligibility is coming up, as well as travel, as well as sports. All of it combines right around week 6. It's all fun and games. Week 1, 2, 3, they're focused. But when you start getting to week 6, 7, 8, 9, some of those younger, some of those older guys rise to the top because they know how to balance all those different things, especially those fifth-year seniors. And I'm ready to get to it, man. How about you?
Yeah, more of the same. I mean, here's another thing too. You got to realize that if you look at these programs too, and I know we're going to talk about the Big Ten here in a little bit, but generally speaking, with college football as a whole, there's a rule of thumb that I go by, and I'm not sure everybody else is going to do this, but just that something I look at is when you have a lot of these first year coaches, and what I mean by first year is his first year at that program. So a new coach comes in. He's got some of the older players, some seniors and juniors and whatnot. None of these guys are basically his recruits, so they have to get acclimated to his system. So you have a lot of you have a lot of, I would call it confusion, but a big learning curve early in the season for these kids. So, and my rule of thumb is, from a better standpoint, is when you don't want to play on a first year coach early in the season, but when it comes like mid to late October, which you're going to be probably in about your seventh, eighth week, that's when you want to start playing on these teams because they're getting familiar with the programs and whatnot. And at the same time, Nevada and the sports odds makers, they have these lines factored in as a first year coach. It takes them a while to catch up. So there's value in playing first year coaches later in the season as opposed to early, because that's usually a no look all the way around for a lot of handicappers. They don't like betting on teams that have first year coaches. But for me, I find you get value later in mid October to later in the season if the teams are performing
I,
well.
I like that look. I like that look. So let's jump over into. I'll lead us off on this one, Big Ragu, with the Big Ten all broken down right here, pretty good for us to go review. Now I went back and listened to some of the stuff that we had in the shows before, and from where we were then and where we are now, it's a big difference over here in the Big Ten West. Now, in the Big Ten West, in the Field Steel magazine, it had Nebraska ranked number one, and Nebraska lost to Colorado and Ohio State. Now they had Iowa number two. Iowa only beat Iowa State so far, and that was a close one, 18-17. They had Wisconsin, but Wisconsin beat Michigan. They had a standout play on there, but that's all they really had was a good game against Michigan. Then they had this Minnesota team who's been doing really well, and they beat San Diego State, they beat Fresno State, and they also beat Purdue, and they put up good offensive numbers. And Northwestern, he had also tied at number 4. Now, Northwestern then lost to Stanford 7-17, lost to Wisconsin 15-24, lost to Michigan State. The only win that they had was against UNLV, and they kept all those low. So it does show right here that they are pretty good on the defensive side of things. They're doing kind of bad right now, but the scheduling on this one is a little bit tougher. They played a tough team like Stanford. They played a tough team like Wisconsin. They still may have a chance to come back at some point in time. Now, let's take a look at Purdue. Purdue lost to Nevada. They won against Vandy. They lost to TCU, and they also lost to Minnesota. They also played some decent squads. And Phil still had last Illinois, who lost to Eastern Michigan, lost to Nebraska. But they did win out of conference to Akron and also UConn. Now, let's take a look at where these teams are right now. So first, right now, in the Big Ten West, we got Wisconsin at 4-0, 2-0 in the conference. Their offense is ranked number 44, but their defense is ranked number 1, and that's why number 2, they're 4-0 as well. They're 1-0 in the conference. They have a 29th ranked offense and a number 5 defense, so they're really balanced in that respect. Now, Minnesota, this is a team that I like. They're 4-0 in the overall, and but they have a number 83 ranked offense, but they have the number 4 ranked defense, and they were projected to be pretty low, and they're outperforming right now. They're up there pretty good in number 3 spot. Now, we did predict this in our breakdowns that we had before about Nebraska not being as tough as they talked about in the preseason, and it shows. They're 3-2, they're 1-1 in the conference. The offense is ranked number 46, and the defense is ranked number 78. The coach, we all knew it. He still has a little time to develop that team over there. who was supposed to be last, comes in right here. They have the number 86 offense and the number 84 defense. Now Purdue underperformed that team. Now Northwestern, they're all the way at the bottom right now, and they're 1-3. They're 0-2 in the conference. Their offense is doing really bad ranking wise, 126, and their defense is ranked number 33 though. But like I said about Northwestern, they play some really tough foes out there: Stanford, Michigan State, Wisconsin. So early in the season, they got a pretty tough schedule, and I expect big things out of Northwestern. So after revisiting those and looking at some of the games for the week right here, ones I like the most in the West would be this Minnesota and Iowa, the Minnesota matchup and the Michigan-Iowa matchup. And we talked about the Michigan-Iowa matchup. It's just that time for Michigan. Iowa's they do pretty good with the numbers. They have been known to beat good teams on the good road, but here's a good team, what was supposed to be a good team, that's having a bad time, and they need this win to get ahead over there on their side of the conference in this one. And then the player of the week out of this conference, after capping that down, is I like Minnesota -14 at home to beat Illinois. Now, this is a team that's been performing well, and here they are at home with a chance to roll over a team that belongs at the bottom of the league. And I think that's just what they'll do out in Minnesota this week. That's my hello?
Yeah, okay. I lost you there for a minute. You were
okay.
Down on me for a moment, so you just froze up. But anyways, okay, so to break it down on the east side, which is the side that I'm going to be talking about, there's 7 teams over there. Both sides of the conference has 7 teams. And early on in the season, everybody anointed Michigan as the top dog on the East. Well, right now, Michigan is not the top dog, as we all know. They've had their trials and tribulations early in the season. They're sitting right now. Michigan is sitting at 3-1. They're 3-0 at home, but conference play, they're 1-1 right now. We all know what happened early in the season when they took on Middle Tennessee. They won that easily. They took on Army, which they barely won in overtime. They won on a miss. They won by a field goal basically in that game, and then they went to take on Wisconsin, and Wisconsin handed them a new look to them. You know, they lost 35-14, but at one time the score was 35-0. And not that the Wisconsin took their foot off the gas, but they just kind of went with a different look late in the game, and they got some garbage time touchdowns there. And they just come off a must-win game against Rutgers, because Rutgers is the doormat of the conference, 52-0. So they had them projected number 1 early. They had Ohio State projected number 2. They had Penn State projected number 3. They had Michigan State projected number 4. Maryland Terrapins number 5. Indiana Hoosiers number 6, and Rutgers number 7. Rutgers is still in the cellar, but now at the top we have a little bit different look going on in that conference. And same thing as your side of the conference in the west side. You know, you had 3 teams right now that are undefeated over there. You had, like you said, Wisconsin, Minnesota, which you like, and Iowa. Almost the same look, but the only difference here is we've got Ohio, Michigan State, and Penn State. But Penn State, Michigan State's got 1 loss. So you got 5-0 with Wisconsin. You got Michigan State number 2, and then Penn State number 3. Those are the order. And then Michigan's number 4, Maryland's number 5, Indiana and Rutgers number 6 and 7. So they had the call right with Indiana and Rutgers, but they were dead wrong with the Michigan. The other teams up towards the top are pretty close. And a team that I liked early, and I said there was some value on this team, was Michigan State. Now, Michigan State has crept up there, and I figured they would be like number 2. But what I didn't evaluate on the Michigan State side, I knew their defense was going to be really, really tough. But their offense is kind of putrid. They don't score a lot of points. They have trouble scoring points. And their big upset that they lost a 10-7 game at home against an upstart Arizona State team, which is a defensive juggernaut in the Pac-12. So that wasn't a good look to them. They beat Tulsa the first game of the season. They beat Western Michigan. They lost to Arizona State. They beat Northwestern, and they just beat Indiana. And those games that they won, they scored like against the weaker opponents. They scored like 31 points. They only gave up 10. The first game they won Tulsa 28-7. They beat Michigan, Western Michigan 51-17. And they lost Arizona State 7-10, and they beat Northwestern 31-10. And so you notice the common denominator there is 10 points given up, 10 points, 7 points, 17 points. So the first 4 games of the season, they've given up 10, 10, 7, and 17. But the last game, this is really interesting. Against Indiana, they gave up 31 points. They won 40-31. So that was a surprise there on that look. And then the number 2 team is Ohio State. Now this team here, or the number 1 team, should I say, is Ohio State. This team is rolling. They're like a freight train right now. This team's got a lot of stuff going on there. They're probably the class of that division. I think they just bumped them up in the polls nationally to number 4. You have LSU. We have Georgia, and then we have Alabama sitting over there. So right now you've got those teams. So they're trying to, every year it seems like with this Ohio State team, they try to push them into the national championship picture. I know all the AP writers and the coaches polls. I mean that's they're not part of the BCS committees, but in the rankings, they always have them right there on the outside looking in. And especially with the BCS, they always want that representation, it seems like, from the Big Ten to somebody to come in and participate in the national championship game. And what's not fair is with the SECs, what they have going there, they always have 1 or 2 teams from the SEC, and then you have the Clemson or some, and then you try to have the 1 extra team. So I hope one day down the road that they expand this to 6 to 8 teams, just to kind of get one of the non-conference Power 5 teams in there, and then 1 at-large team. This way they can have they can always have that have a better look to be a little more fair across the board and get a better team in there that deserves to be there. But anyways, Ohio State is definitely the class of the league. They're the number 1 ranked team in the division, and they've got some real quality wins so far. They've taken out a lot of opponents convincingly, and one of the teams that they did was the team that you and I were talking about. Was they anointed Nebraska, which was a 4-win team last year, to have at least 8 wins this year. And starting off the season, it was really, really rough for them. They didn't look good early. They'll probably get better as the season goes. But they beat Florida Atlantic 45-21. They beat Cincinnati 42-0. Kind of a big brother, little brother beat down there. They beat Indiana 51-10, the same team that Michigan State gave up 30 some odd points to. They beat Miami of Ohio 76-5, and they just come off of that Nebraska win 48-7 last week. Now this week they got to play a Michigan State team. This is going to be a real interesting game, I think. Even so, so you have the top 2 teams in the conference on the east side going at each other. A team that's very defensively minded versus a team that's highly, highly potent on the offensive side of the ball and plays pretty darn good defense too. So Michigan State's going to have their work cut out for them. Now, if Michigan State steps up in this role, then, they could be knocking on the door also. Even though they have that 1 loss, they will get major upgrade on their rankings for taking out Ohio State. But that's I'm not going to say it's unlikely to happen, but the probability is not looking really, really good there. So we know about them. And then let's talk about this Penn State team. Now, Penn State, year after year, has always had a quality program. They got a coach over there, Coach Franklin, that likes to run up the score when he plays. And not that they're a second-tier team, but for years, Penn State was known as Linebacker U back in the Joe Pa days, Joe Paterno. They would put out some of the best linebackers in the country, and they always had a very disciplined team. Now, the program went through a little lull there, with some scandals that they had, and it seems like, all those are behind them. And Franklin, if you either like him or you hate him, or whichever way you go with him, you got to give him credit because he does coach the team very, very well. And they play. That's a tough place to play. I don't know if anybody's ever watched a game in Happy Valley, but when teams roll into Happy Valley, it's not so happy for them when they come up against Penn State, because Penn State is a heck of a school, and they do put it on you when you play there. So right now they're sitting at the top as the third team. Like I say, you got a 3-0, 5-0, 4-1, and 4-0 right now. So, and they started out here early. Like, here I go. 79-7, Idaho, putting the foot on the gas. Buffalo, 45-13. Now Pittsburgh came rolling around, and Pittsburgh gave them all they wanted, because that's like little brother, big brother, and little brother, decided he was going to step up that day and take it to them. So they won 17-10. But then the following week, they bounced back in a big way. They went on the road and played Maryland, and they won 59-0. So, man, that was a tough look there for Maryland. And Maryland is the other team I'm going to talk about now, because they're the one that's right beneath Pittsburgh. I mean, Penn State in the conference. Maryland right now is sitting at 2-2. Now Maryland's a nice little squad. You and I, we talked about them. They had an interim coach last year. They had some issues on the team where one of the kids had passed away during a football event. And the team kind of rallied around this interim coach, and it was a very emotional and a tumultuous year for that team. And we didn't know how it was going to go as far as, the program going forward. Well, they wound up hiring the interim coach, and they brought a transfer quarterback, Josh Jackson, very athletic kid. And DJ Durkin was the coach prior to, and he was a pretty good recruiter. And they recruited pretty highly out of the Delaware, Maryland, D.C. area. And the thing we were talking about with Franklin, he used to go in there and try to get all the top kids from the D.C. area and the Maryland area away from this program. And then what does he do? He goes in there last week and he beats them 59-0 with a lot of their recruits. But anyways, Maryland is an upstart program. A lot of solid athletes there, 2-2 right now. And going forward, I think this is going to be a team that you can bet on in the right spots in an underdog role. And then Indiana and Rutgers, they're the bottom tier teams in the conference right now. And I know I've been long-winded with this, so I'm going to give it back to my guy DJ and come up with some looks that we like for this week in the conference. What do you think, DJ?
That's what's up. Before I end my review on the Big Ten West, though, I do want to give my prediction as to who do I think will win the Big Ten West. And it kind of looks hand down from right here that it's going to be Wisconsin to take away with that side of the conference, and they should meet up probably with Ohio State in the championship game over there, and Ohio State should win and so forth and so on. They'll probably get a nice bowl game over there in that side of the conference. But I feel after what Big Ragu just went over there, is no doubt that Ohio State is going to run that side of the conference. But yeah, Michigan, I like them actually coming, trying to savor some of their season and some of their mistakes maybe later on in the season. But that's it for that right now on the Big Ten Conference review. I'd like to welcome everybody that just showed up to the Who-Bangin Sports Talk channel right here on the Boss and the Sauce Show every Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard, 9 p.m. Eastern. We live right now, and I got to relax a little bit and have a good time because it's been a lot of hard work today, but it's all good. I got plenty of picks to put out there for you guys. Like I said, I'm already on Minnesota -14, and I agree with Big Ragu with the Michigan -3.5. But any other picks you want to put, or any other insight you want to put them on about anything right here in Week 6?
And on the Week 6, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a key week for a lot of teams in this conference. You know, Michigan State's got a big game. Purdue's got a big game. Matter of fact, Purdue, they're playing Penn State. Okay, so Purdue, even though it's on your side, you know, I say your side of the conference. You read the West. Now, when you and I talked about the West, Purdue was one of those teams that I really, really liked, and they had some really nice players, but their quarterback went down last week, and now it's kind of changed the dynamic of that team going forward. So, and I was kind of up on Purdue to kind of I was kind of really hoping that he was questionable to come back, and now we find out he's not going to play. So they're an underdog to Penn State this week. So that's a game I'm not going to probably get involved with. And I know Penn State's a pretty large favorite there, but Purdue was a nice look going in, and they're probably going to get an L this week, which is not going to help their cause. But with Wisconsin, what they have going on over there, and Minnesota, they're going to be up against it to kind of make a run on that side. But they can salvage their season. Hopefully their quarterback, he comes back and he gets healthy, and then going forward, they get some good looks going forward. The other game I was looking at was the Ohio State game. That they're playing Michigan State, so that's one. That's number 2 versus or number 1 versus 2. Now, like I was telling you before, that particular game there, I mean, you're gonna have a offensive juggernaut versus a defensive juggernaut, and to me, I'm a defensive type of guy. Like when I watch football games, I love to watch the scoring, but I do like to see them grind it out. And, defense is what wins championships. Now, the question mark is you still have to score points to win the big games. And I don't know if they can muster up enough firepower to match up with Ohio State here. So the key in this game, the look I'm going to have in this game is going to be in the Horseshoe. It's going to be in Columbus. It's going to be a primetime game. And I don't know if game day is going to be there for that game or they're going to be there for the Florida-Auburn game, but this game has just as much as importance because of the fact that Ohio State is the 4th-ranked team and Michigan State is still a top 25 program. It's both teams. This is a must-win game for both teams here, just as the Florida-Auburn game is a must-win game in that game. But I'm going to have to side with Ohio State, whether they get to the number or not. I don't know if they'll get there. So this is going to be one like you and I say. We like to sit back, crack a cold one, and enjoy the game. So this is a must-see TV game here. For the fans who are fans of college football, this game's going to have a little bit of everything for you to watch.
Absolutely. I like your look on that one, too. I think that Ohio State is just a really hierarchy team. They play at such fast intensity. I'm not sure if a lot of teams can get in their way. It's going to take the speed and the size of teams like Alabama or Clemson to even come close to stopping this Ohio State team. I say they run the tables over here, maybe undefeated season for Ohio State overall. I mean, if we look at it and look at their schedule for the rest of the season right here, I don't see too much stuff that could get in their way of winning this division for sure. But I think I see these guys pretty deep in the playoffs. What you think about Ohio State in the playoffs, Big Ragu?
Yeah, well, don't forget now when they get through the conference play, there's another team on the other side that's pretty good named Wisconsin, and those guys are all 350 pound across the front line, and they just line up and try to maul you over. So if there's any kinks in Ohio State's defense on their side, and here's the thing about Wisconsin too that I didn't get to talk about, Wisconsin's defense is much improved. If you go to the top of the charts in the NCAA rankings in college football on defense, total defense, guess who's sitting right there? Wisconsin.
Number one Wisconsin
yes,
defense right there.
Yes, sir.
That means a lot.
Yeah. So that's the quiet thunder right now that's not getting a whole lot of attention right now in the national spotlight because, we all want to see these, the media likes to talk about these hype teams, with the high power offenses and then they talk defense too, but that's a quiet team under the radar as far as defense goes. You know, there's not a lot of focus on Wisconsin's defense. When you think defense, you know, they're talking about Alabama, they're talking about LSU, they're talking about, you know, Arizona State, how good they're playing defensively, talking about Michigan State, but nobody's talking about Wisconsin's defense right now. So that's going to be the determining factor going forward, I think. You know, when they get to that championship game, if they get to that championship game with Ohio State, that's where the rubber is going to meet the road.
It's not as easy breezy as I thought. They have to see Michigan State, which Michigan State just hasn't developed the offense. I just really defense going to be the first competitive defense that Ohio State's going to face right here. But after Michigan State, they go see Northwestern, who's not doing well. But then they have to get ready for the big game against Wisconsin. That's going to be the biggest game for them in the year, which would be great because they'll probably get a rematch in the championship game. That'll be nice. And then they got to play Maryland, who we already said they would love to put an upset or something with what they got going on. They got an easy one record, but that's right before the last two games where they have to see Penn State and Michigan. Now, Michigan, if they get their things together and they make it down right here, they could be aiming for Ohio State to save any hope of a good bowl game, or I doubt they'll be able to make it to the playoffs at this point, but they could at least spoil Ohio State season. And we know what goes on over here in the Big Ten. They usually chew each other up bad. It's no different than last year where, some of these sleeper teams come in here and beat these guys and change the whole dynamics of the whole conference over there. So that's a good one right there, man. That's a good take right here on the Who-Bangin Sports Talk channel. Big Boss in the Sauce. I'm a little off. I'm a little winded too. But Boss in the Sauce show right here every Thursday, 6 p.m. Shout out to my people in the chat. OG Wham, my man Joe just showed up right here. My man Ray Williams always showed up. And the Donnie Right Side was in the building a little earlier. I'm not sure who's still here watching with us, but we having a good time. My man Joe Annick says, Boss and the Sauce, baby. You know how we do it right here, Joe. Glad that you're in here to enjoy this with us today. But let's jump over to some other things. Anything else jumps off the board to you?
Yeah, there's one other team that I wanted to bring up that, and I found this out today. And you hear them talk about them, but they don't make a lot of noise. They're kind of like a passe type team in the conference. They're always like middle of the road. They play like middle part of the year in the bowl game, like mid. You know, they used to play sometime once in a while. They did compete a long time ago for a big spot. I think he played the Rose Bowl once in their life as the Northwestern Wildcats. Now Northwestern is a quietly good team. Spoiler, ATS, not necessarily they'll get the money, but they won't get the W. You know what I'm talking about? Our guys in the chat that want to put their money down on a team. This team here, if you go back and look the last 10 games in conference play, they're 10-0 ATS in the Big Ten, Northwestern. So the guys that want to get their money down on a team, not necessarily in an underdog role, in a favorite role too, but go look at Northwestern's ATS record in the Big Ten conference play. The last 10-0, the Northwestern Wildcats. And they do have to play Wisconsin the 27th of October, and they play Ohio State on December 1st. So I'm sure they have those dates circled on their calendar if they're in good health and they got the players in line to do it. They're going to be gunning for those two games. Mark my words. They might look past. So that's the thing you want to look at too with this team. So they play Illinois the week before they play Ohio State, and they play Rutgers the week before that. So they play two really weak teams before they play the two top teams. So I don't know if they're going to continue that streak, but that's a streak they're on right now. 10-0 ATS in the Big Ten conference play, and we're right in the middle of conference play.
I like that. Look, man, now I thought about this earlier in the day as I was going through all my thoughts and travels and studies and stuff. And I said I got to make sure that when I get on the show tonight with Big Ragu, I must commend him on his bets that he does in the Pac-12. Now, I made a statement about how I felt about the USC team last week, and our guy Drew Martin, he liked USC plus the punch too. And what it really, my real lesson of the whole situation was how biased I am for being right here by USC. Like the way you saw it was absolutely spot on. That USC had become a one-dimensional team, but me, being that I'm so influenced locally and the bias that's right here, that I felt that they were a talented team that would not get beat by that many points. Check.
You back?
We back.
We've been having some mixed technical issues tonight.
They've been trying to knock us off, and that's how you know you got something good, like the boss in the sauce, when they always trying to knock you off. But you know what? We persevere, no matter what going on. But
I lost the very last thing you said here.
Yeah, I was going into this UCLA game that's going down against Oregon State, and I'm a little biased from being local. I have to admit that now that I understand that. But I got a lot of hope in Chip Kelly. I can't look past them success rate may be changing right now, and right now might be a really good time to hop on this team. We got a low number this week with 6 right here, and I think we got a good chance at UCLA pulling off a win this week against against the Oregon State team that is really not really nothing tough. They recruit the same as UCLA. They probably have the talented enough players, but they just haven't been able to put it all together on the field. I think this is an opportunity right here for UCLA to open up on them, especially with them being the home team in this one. They get a good chance to open up at home against a team like Oregon State and cover this 6 point. Chip Kelly becomes the hero of UCLA for the time being, and they start getting some recruits and getting everything going into the direction that they planned on when they brought Chip Kelly in for Mora. What you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I know Oregon State is probably not one of the better teams in the Pac-12 right now, and UCLA, they had that crazy win against Washington State, not last week, but the week before. So they, they probably found something that clicked off right there. They had to have a perfect storm for that to happen. But you know what? They made it happen. So you got to give them credit for that. So I think they're in a good spot right there in that game. That's probably the right opponent for them to kind of to get the victory and get that play in and walk away with a W. I like that play right there. You want to know another play I like in the Pac-12?
What's that? Before we get to that, I just want to say Buck Nasty said he doesn't have his players, but and that was a big thing with Moore leaving UCLA is that he wasn't showing up to the camps. He was sending people. He was going through some kind of issues with his personal life, and he kind of let the recruiting fall off a little bit right there. But Chip Kelly has been in there, long enough to get a couple of his people in there that could run things. And I think that it's a spot where he could turn this around right here. But go ahead to that next one that you was talking about.
What was he saying about what was Buck saying about the recruiting now that Kelly wasn't having?
Kelly doesn't have his recruited players. He's still using, he had 1 year, but a lot of those players, the older players are more as recruits. And that was one of the biggest reasons why Moore had to go is because he wasn't recruiting the proper players.
Oh, I thought he said something about Kelly falling off and not recruiting, and then somebody was okay. That makes sense now. My apologies, but yeah, here's a team that I'm really high on, and I think I was laughing because when we got to watch that USC game when they went ahead and when they were one-dimensional. We talked about being one-dimensional. They took Utah out on some bad matchups, and Utah that game was able to move the ball up and down the field. but they weren't successful on scoring points. And the quarterback wound up getting hurt, and the running back, both of them in that game, and then it hurt them going into the next game. But no, I'm sorry, they bounced back the next game. Utah did, but anyways, in that particular game, they had to go up and play Washington. Now Washington I think Washington is the class of that league. Early in the season, they had one loss, so a lot of people got off that bandwagon and they jumped on the Utah bandwagon. Now we're seeing, that coming back the other way now. So Washington, they're playing this week. And who does Washington have? They've got Washington. I just looked at that. They're playing at Stanford. Now we know the deal with Stanford with the quarterback situation and the offensive line being banged up a little bit. And I think Washington is in a real good spot here to take that game on the road. And I've got them right here. The way I capped the game out was we had, I think it was like 16 points, Washington on the road against Stanford. I like that look a lot. I think their style of play, they're a little more physical than Stanford is right now, and they can put points up on the board. I look to lay the 2 touchdowns with Washington to beat Stanford in Stanford. What do you think about that?
Man, I'm a stick by my story. Like I said last week on the closing line, is that Washington and Washington State, just 2 teams I just can't get a handle on. And I'm glad you got a handle on it, because if I go touch it, I'll be to messed you up. So I'm staying far away from that game in the janky Pac-12 play that goes on late night over here. So I'm totally off that one. But Bug Nasty says that my guy Kelly can't run the Oregon offense over here at UCLA. Well, I'll put you in on the insight. Kelly came back not to run. He's upset that once he left Oregon and went to the NFL, that all the other schools came in and basically ran his RPO offense, created the more of a West Coast offense in college. So him coming back, he's got a different plan and a different approach to this. I've seen some running schemes. I've seen some looks that were quite peculiar from this guy, and we know he's like an offensive guru. So I just say hold on to your seat. I'm hoping for big things out of the Bruins. But I got another one for you, Big Ragu. This one right here, I'm thinking of our friend Pete Loshak when he explains contrarian play. Now, this is the TCU game against Iowa State TCU. So Iowa State is a really good team. They barely lost to Iowa this year. They're having a good season. They have a good we capped this earlier in the season. They got a good returning group. They're doing a lot of things well. But on the contrarian level, TCU team efficiency, offense and defense looks really good, and they're really one of those teams that's in a spot to be a sleeper. What you think about that game?
Yeah, TCU. I mean, they took the brunt of it. Talk about the BCS. TCU's always been one of those teams. They've even been undefeated in the past, where they're on the outside looking in. No matter what the situation is, they don't get the respect. They don't get the what they deserve. I mean, they're a well-coached football program. They always play solid defense, and when they have the right quarterback in their system, they excel even more. But they're not an offensive-minded team. They're always way stronger on the defensive side of the ball. And Iowa State, same thing. Iowa State's one of these teams too that they're everybody thinks they're a highly powered offense, but they're more of a defensive-minded team too. But I like this spot a lot. Matter of fact, that's one I had circled was the TCU side on this one. I would definitely like to see the TCU spot on there, and then I would look at the under in this game also.
Yeah, I like the under in that one as well. That's a good look right there. Another game that I like to go into is one that I mentioned a little bit earlier on one of the other shows. No, let's jump over to this one right here. Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. Now, Vanderbilt is a team that's playing a little down right now. They're 1-3 overall. They're 0-4 ATS. They have the number 46 team efficiency on offense, number 18 team efficiency on defense, and they're really lacking in the defensive area, giving up 340 yards in the passing game at a 63% completion ratings. Now, Ole Miss doesn't have much offense. They have a 45% team efficiency on offense. They only rush 170 yards per game, but they pass for 314. And the quarterback that they brought in, he did a really good job against Alabama, actually putting up points. And in the first half, just as I expected, the senior-led defense was able to hold Alabama down. I can't quite put my finger on where that game got out of control for Ole Miss, but I think right here at home against a team like Vandy is a spot for them to get a win at a short number like 6.5 or 7 right now. What you think about that play?
All right, so you got both teams. Vandy's 0-2 in conference, and Mississippi's is 1-1. Now Vanderbilt. Now when we talked about Mississippi early in the year, we knew that they were going to be a better defensive team than they were going to be offense because they only had, I think, like 3 starters coming back on the offensive side of the ball. Now Vanderbilt, Vandy's Vandy. They're never really. Well, they first of all, Vandy lost their quarterback Schumer, who was a 4-year starter for them. So that was a major loss on their side, and right now they're 1-3, and Mississippi's got 2 wins on their side. What's the spread on that game?
It was at 7 earlier, but I think it went down to 6.5. I'm not absolutely sure. I could check real
That's all right.
quick.
That's okay. I think
I think it's a low number for a home team. Although they don't put up much offense, I still think that this is a chance right now for them to open up a little bit. They played quite a few tough games to this point, and this is a point where they can take advantage of their defense and come away with a win.
Yeah, they opened up in Memphis. That was a game we looked at. We liked the under there. We were right there starting off. And then they had a pretty good win at Arkansas, right? 31-17. Right. And then they just beat the Louisiana or recently Southeast Louisiana, 40 points they scored there. Then they played a tough game, which they took an L to Cal, 28-20. They lost that game, but Cal held them down a little bit. And like you said, the Bama game, they put 31 points up on Alabama. So, and 31-59. So that's saying a lot there. For them to score 31 points up on Bama, that's pretty darn good in my book. So they're probably in the right spot here to kind of try to open some things up later. Like I say, later in the season. This is I don't know if it's a second year or a first year coach down there, but I know it's a progression. So they're in that mode too. So, and it's getting middle part of the season. So they're probably in the right spot here to make a move to score some points down in Oxford in this game against a pretty decent, defensive squad in Vandy, so it's probably the right look for them to kind of make some things happen down in Oxford this weekend. So I would venture to say I wouldn't lay no more than a touchdown here, but I would definitely be interested in laying 6.5 to a touchdown, no more than 7.
That's right. And I must give a little shout out to our chat right there. My guy MPS Skinner's in the house. Buck Nasty is in the house. Our guy Josh Point oh, who's going to be with us tomorrow on the Who-Bangin Sports Lounge. We're talking hockey tomorrow. That's going to be exciting. And our guy Topset, he always shows up and patronizes and come through. And our good friend from Las Vegas, my guy, Flipper13 is also in the chat, along with Margarita, who's also here in the well. And I want to give a special, super duper awesome, cool shout out to my guy Adam, who's out there watching us right now. We do apologize for the late start. We like to keep things on time every Thursday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to try to keep it that way. We do apologize, but we're still in here for another 30 minutes, Big Ragu. We got to give the people what they want because this is the Boss and the Sauce Show, and we talks that college football stuff day in, day out. Y'all shoot some questions out here for us. We'll be glad to answer y'all questions, but we're going to get over into some more games. You got another look? Big Ragu?
Yeah, I sure do. I know you and I had spoke. I think we might be on different sides or different looks in this game, but man, I'm gonna tell you what. How about this LSU football team right now? Are they getting the job done or what? This team here, I mean, they got a new offensive coordinator, new look. Now the kid Joe Burrows, I think he's a second year starter there. Man, I'm telling you what, I think this kid's probably going to be a top pick in the pros if he keeps doing what he's doing. He'll probably come out next year and be the #1 pick in the NFL because he's got everything going for him. I know we talk about Tua and we talk about the kid over at Clemson. But man, I'll tell you, a lot of looks from this kid Joe Burrows. Now he's running what they call an RPO offense, run pass option. Okay, so we got a couple NFL guys that ran that in their career in college. Like Mariota, which, Russell Wilson. There's some top quarterbacks in the league that's run that. Kaepernick back in the day. But anyways, now this kid Burrow, he did it back in high school, and with the new coordinator coming in, Ogeron brought him in. And I figured, okay, now he's got to learn a new offense, but how productive can they be with this? LSU, like you say, and we talked about this, is a defensive-minded team. They've always had that big back, that smash-mouth football style of play, offensive line blocking, play action. They get their chunk yardages here and there. But man, this guy is lighting up the scoreboard. They're scoring 50+. I think they've got like the highest #1 offense in college football right now. But the irony of the thing is with the RPO, run, pass option, right? So the quarterback has only ran the ball 20 times, and he's averaged less than 2 yards a carry. So I think he's got like 1.9 yards rushing average. So, but the yardage they're putting up, they're putting 500-600 yards up a game. So and a good percentage of that is from the pass. So they've really excelled in this area, on the offense, which has been unbelievable. So if he's only running for let's say only ran the ball 20 times and less than 2 yards a run, how much run is in this run pass option? I mean, somebody's got to be catching on sooner or later, right? That's the way I look at it. Now they bring on Utah State. Now Utah State is from your neck of the woods. You know this team pretty well, don't you?
In the Mountain West.
The Mountain West is where you do it best, right?
Absolutely.
So now they're coming in here as a big favorite, right? What's the line of that game? Something like 20.
It started off at 27. I think it's been as high as 28. Yeah.
So it's a lot of points, but you can see why it's a lot of points because, like I said, they have the #1 offense in football, and I know Utah State. They're probably not the best defensive team, but this team can score points, can't they? Utah State.
Yeah, they can score points pretty good, but they do a lot of passing. Balanced offense over there, but they do a lot of passing, and LSU supposed to be DBU, man. They're supposed to be DBU, but able to lock it down. Now they're getting a lot of speed coming out of the West Coast that they might not be ready for in a team that they haven't played in years. So I don't know how they get ready for them. So I noticed a lot of volatility in there. I'm on your side, as a matter of fact, with Utah State, but I just see a lot of. I think the number is way high for the total, though. I think it's just way too high.
You like the under, correct? So what is the total on this game?
It was at 72, and they said it's been pushing up some
72.
as well.
Wow, that's a huge. I would never in my dreams think about a LSU team. Now, years ago, I say years ago, last year, as a matter of fact, I'll never forget this game. I was in Las Vegas. I was at the Orleans Casino, the place we hang out when we go. And I was sitting there at the bar, and I had the under in this game. It was like, and LSU you always associate unders with because you always have like 10-9 Alabama. You remember those games they played over the years, LSU, those defensive kind of games. So I'm sitting there at the bar, and I got like 40. I think the total's like 48-49. So I think it was LSU and Arkansas. And I'm sitting there watching this game. I said, man, this game's over. I mean, I got the under. It's a lock. It's done. Score is like 21. It was like 21-21. I said, they're going to go overtime. Somebody's going to score either a touchdown real quick or kick a field goal. Or, I says, I got about a 70-30 chance in my brain that this game is, I won. And then I got the side too. I got the LSU was like minus like 3 or something, 3, 4 points, whatever it was. They went to 7 overtimes. 7.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. They scored. It was like 88. If you go back and look at last year in the book, it was like 88 to 81. Finally, somebody got the 2-point conversion. It was the craziest thing you ever want to see. Couldn't believe what I was watching. But anyway,
you got to be careful with the unders in college football. Those overtime things, the way it's set up. You get a little sweaty palms and all that when the game goes in overtime in college.
Especially,
but we got some questions. I forgot to cut you off, Big Ragu.
A closely matched game, you always want to be aware of a total. That's why this is not going to be a close game, I don't think, in a sense where it's going to go to overtime. But I do like Utah State getting the 28 points here because they can score points. And the way that our LSU team's been scoring, I don't think it's going to be a track meet. I think this is the game where LSU is going to try to slow it down. So if they do try to slow it down a little bit to kind of try to keep these guys off the field, I like your under will come into play, and my plus 28 will come into play. That's what I had to say about that.
I like that. The only way we could tell is the proof of will be in the pudding this weekend. Now, we got some questions in the chat. We did open the chat up for some questions, and we could touch on them briefly, Big Ragu. First, we got our man Oiksker Sanchez in here, and he said this is the one that I'm all the way off on the military. Because even though it is the Air Force, which is one of my Mountain West teams, but the Air Force Navy game, you got any input on that?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, I'm glad he brought that one up because I see this game going 2 ways. Let me get my little note here that I had a breakdown of that game. So just bear with me while I get that real quick.
Go ahead.
But I was looking at that. These two teams are mirror images of one another. I mean, if you go back and you look at how they break this game down. Now, this is very interesting right here. Both teams average 34 points, right at 34 points a game. Both teams on defense, and this is what's crazy, for a first half look now, for first half only, Air Force averages 7.5 points yielded on defense, and Navy averages 8 points on defense yielded. So which is it going to be? Is it going to be a game where they're both going to score 34 points total game, or are they going to give up? Is it going to be like a 7.5? And if that's the case, it's a dead under, right? Because there's no way that this game gets to 45 points unless they go where to overtime. You know what I mean? So, but it's very interesting. And then at the time of possession, here's another key factor. So we're talking about clock versus totals and overs and unders, right? Right. Both teams possess the ball for 35 minutes, and both teams yield 26 minutes on the other side. So they're exactly the same team looking at each other in the mirror here. So this is a toss-up in my book, and the line reflects that too, because even though Air Force is 3 points favorite at Annapolis, where they're playing the game at the Navy's field, Air Force is a 3.5 point favorite now. I'm sorry, opened up at 2, up to 3.5. So I would take the points. I would take the 3.5 points in this game. If I was betting this game, I would take the plus 3.5 and at Navy in this game. And I'd be scared of total here because this will be a coin flip in my book because we know naturally they're both going to run a triple option, and the other team's going to know what the other team is going to do with as soon as they see the way they know which way. If they're not going to be a lot of plays downfield, it's going to be 3 to 5 yard plays in front of them. And if they spring a play, that's when it becomes a big play. So that's, I don't think they're going to fool each other too many times, each other in this game here. It's like Army Navy, same thing, same look there. So the question is, I'd lean plus the 3.5, and the total I would stay away from it.
Only thing I can say is that Air Force can pass a little better than they have in the past, but some of those passes are double pass, crazy third down, had to make it passes and stuff like that. But that's all I can say. I'm totally off on the military team. I stepped out there early in the season, got bit. I'm gonna stay in the house. I'm not gonna bother those military teams. Yeah. Takes some fine capping for that. But
Those trick games,
We also,
they allow like 1 or 2 a game. That's about it. That could be the difference in the game too.
Absolutely. That's, you know, they can only run their playbook so far to it don't work because the other team is so much like them that they go to their trick plays and stuff like that. Yeah. But our guy MPS Skinner, good guy, good friend of mine right there, he got a question for something over in your neck of the wood. Please tell me what you think about Hurricane versus Hokies. Hokies plus 14.
I know, right?
Now, I could jump in on that.
Go ahead. You start it off.
I don't know what the quarterback situation is for real in Miami. We know for sure this team can struggle on offense. I couldn't really see myself laying 14 because, you know, that's 2 touchdowns like it is. In order to cover that, you're really going to need to be up by like 3 or 4 touchdowns, even to cut out the backdoor cover. Virginia Tech caught a loss, and they need to jump back in motion and get in the driver's seat and drive away. But this Hurricanes D, the turnover chain, and all that kind of stuff definitely poses a threat to those guys. But this is a game. It's difficult to lay money with the Hurricanes with that many points, and you don't know what you're going to get exactly out of the Hokies, who we thought were going to be slightly better than they are right now. But right now they kind of slacking a little bit. So I don't see any hope with them actually solidly covering the 14. But maybe want to go to a total on that game. Depending on the number, you could slip away with the over because of the turnover chain and the Miami's defense. But it could just go slow and go under because of Miami's defense as well. You got any insight on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely not on. I can tell you this right now. I would definitely not lay the 14 points with Miami. As much trouble as they do have back in Blacksburg, Virginia, you know, Fuentes, his job is on the line here. There's already talk about trying to get him out of the contract. They're trying to go through his contract to see what's really going on there. And you know, the architect of that program, we talked about this before, on the defensive side, Bud Foster. And when Frank Beamer was there, you know, they kind of got that program off the ground many moons ago. And Bud Foster is a fixture up there, and he's retiring this year. And Fuentes kept him on board when he came on there, which was good because it kept the identity of the team as far as the defense goes. But, you know, things aren't really panning out for when he made that transition from Memphis over to Virginia Tech. They figured they were going to inherit some offense because they already knew they had defense covered. And they're really struggling bad, and they've had some really bad looks on offense. And it showed right now. You know, they're just not getting the job done. So, and that's why the number is indicative of their play right now. It's 14-point Miami favorite, and I'm not sold on Miami either. So you got 2 teams that, you know, we expect Miami to win the game, and that's a big number for Miami. They have offensive line issues, and you know, Vatek has all kinds of issues on both sides of the ball, and I'm just not comfortable laying more. You need more than 2 touchdowns to win at Miami. They might do it, you know, like you say, maybe the turnover chain gets involved and it gets Miami over the hump as far as the number goes. But I'm not going to depend on Miami to make too many turnovers and put points on the board if that's the determining factor that I got to cover the game. So this is a stay off for me altogether, just because of the number. And total wise, you know, maybe you can lean one way or the other with the total, but it's a pass for me.
Yeah, same over here. If I was forced to make a play, I'd probably jump on the total. If you put a gun to my head, I'd take the points. But I definitely couldn't back Miami with that one. So we don't got no more questions from the chat. My man Flipper said, even though he spooked me with the LSU thing, because I'm really liking my under in the LSU, I capped it at around 60.
What way up to 70. About? What's he spooked about?
Because I'm spooked. Because Flipper's involved, and Flipper, he finds some really nice edges. He's put me onto a bunch of edges before when I was out in Vegas hanging with Flipper. Really great capper, and you know, he hasn't put the bet in yet, so he's not absolutely on the other side of me. But this is one of my meatball plays, taking that under in that one. I like to see it happen. But,
why don't you tell him by time it is?
So the meatball play is a play that you take that, you know, you kind of shoot from the hip. So if you get it, it's all good. It's meatballs, full plate, and everything. But if you don't, it's kind of like a kick in the back of the head that you know you shouldn't have been messing around over there in the first place. So I'm gonna keep sending out these meatball plays every week. Last week I went 2-0 in the meatball plays, taking Colorado State, and also had I can't even remember now. It was a big number too. Oh, it was Ole Miss. Also had more Ole Miss that came with the backdoor cover on that one. So gonna be rolling over the meatball plays until it stop. You know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with a graphic for the meatball play when we put it out there. We're gonna have to show it on the screen somehow. So maybe with a little twirling spaghetti or something. We get some kind of animated GIF. I mean, we don't have to get that fancy, but we definitely need to let the people know when we put our plays up, and we'll always have our plays up there at the end of the show too. But we'll list it out as a meatball play. We'll save that for last. So.
Well, I think we need to go on and put a bow on this one, man. It's been a great time right here. A little exhausted with picks today. We've been all over the place on shows today. Make sure you tune in. I appreciate everybody for coming in to the Boston and Sauce. We got some this 9,000 listeners right here are really loyal. They come back every week, and I love them all individually. So, I appreciate everybody showing up. And we're going to have a good week, cash and money this week. I got a feeling this might be one of my weeks where I go on a small tear. It's about time. I did okay for a couple weeks. It's time to go, 8-2, 7-1, something good. But any last words for them?
Yeah, we always want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. We're all about, sharing our knowledge and making you guys better cappers and shedding a little light on different subjects. And we always appreciate you guys, getting in there and asking the questions and use the chat as a suggestion box for us also. If you'd like to see something or hear something, please go ahead and put that in the chat. Then always, we can always follow us. DJ, you can get a hold of me at Big Ragu 62 on Twitter. And of course, always follow, subscribe to the channel, the Who-Bangin Sports Talk channel. We have plenty of content. If you guys ever want to go back and watch some of the stuff we've done in the past and the reviews on any of the teams, the conferences, the reviews we've done, and of course the shows, you might have missed something early in the show. You go back and watch the show and watch it that way. So, at Big Ragu 62, and then DJ, how can they follow you also?
I'm DJ BIGGBOSS on Twitter. Follow me so you can stay in tune when we come on. And while you're on here, make sure you hit the subscribe. Make sure you hit the like. Show us some love so we can keep this thing going. And appreciate everybody coming out. Don't forget, tomorrow, Who-Bangin Sports Talk Lounge. I'll be well-rested. Only show for tomorrow for me will be that one. So I'm going to be focused. And we're going to be having some special guests on about hockey. And we got some special announcements on the Who-Bangin Sports channel in regards to hockey. Some of our new shows. We had quite a few shows drop today. We did the MLB special baseball playoff preview with Don Ricci and Noli Knows. And also I worked behind the scenes a little bit with OG Wham. He got something he's going to share with you guys coming soon. It's going to be a real treat going into the NBA season. So nothing but smiles, good thing, and cash money over here on the Who-Bangin Sports channel, right here on the Boss and the Sauce show. Y'all have a great thing. And Big Ragu, guess what?
What, DJ?
Man, I'll see you at the window.
I'll see you at the window, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Come join us. Peace.